Thanks for staying. Now, challenges with revenue mobilization containing the fiscal deficit and also the 2018 budget are expected to dominate IMF's review visit to the country. The team is in town to track government's performance under the program so far. George Rafi has more.
The visit will look at how government has fared in meeting some targets and implementation of critical reforms to aid program completion. Some of the reforms include resetting of structural benchmarks that were missed as at the end of June this year, completion of the Treasury Single Account Program. Sources say the assessment to be based on fiscal data up to August this year and whether the required progress has been made by government in stabilizing the economy as required under the program. According to the IMF, there's a need to undertake some fiscal reforms to bring the program back on track. Deputy Director at the IMF Fiscal Department, Catherine Partilo, disclosed this to Joy Business in Washington, D.C.
There have been revenue shortfalls this year, and so there is a need for additional efforts to address those. There's also a need for very strict expenditure control, and that has to be enforced to contain current spending and prevent recurrence of domestic arrears. So over the medium term, 2017 and 18, the adjustment, front-loaded fiscal adjustment of around 4.5% is really what's needed.
Joy Business is learning that challenges to revenue mobilization will also come up during this review, and what government is doing to improve the situation, and also what is being done to ensure that this doesn't affect the amount of money government is hoping to spend more than revenue mobilized by the end of this year. This assessment will be the 5th out of 7 reviews that will be undertaken by the IMF before the completion of this program in 2019. The visit will see the team engage senior public officials, including Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and some technocrats at the Central Bank and Finance Ministry, civil society groups, and some members of Parliament.
Meanwhile, government has described as flawed assertions that the IMF is against the energy bond issuance. The 10 billion cedi bond to be used to settle the energy sector debt is to be auctioned in tranches starting with 6 billion cedis. There have been reports that the IMF is concerned the bond issuance somewhat defeats the goal of the 3-year program to control the public debt. Deputy Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has, however, explained government only disagrees with the IMF on the classification of the bond, which should be resolved eventually.
They have suggested that they would like to see the bond classified as part of our national debt stock. We are rather the ones who disagree that to do that would rather be a defeating of the gains that we have made so far, and will be out of sync with the traditional classification approach that we have been using since we started the current program under which we are. And we are hopeful that at the end of the day, even when we are successful with the bond issue, we will come to some favorable resolution of this, may I say, difference in how to treat the bond issuance.
Deputy Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has been speaking to Joy Business on the heels of the recent IMF World Bank meetings in the US. He says Ghana's engagements at the meetings were fruitful.
Specifically, what we achieved was a major buy-in to the economic recovery agenda that we are currently pursuing as a government, and even indications that the allowance that we are looking for, remember they wanted us to consolidate from 9% deficit last year to the 6.3 we are doing this year. They wanted us to go further to about 3.8 next year, and we have been making a forceful argument that looking at the kind of programs that we have rolled out, which we are following successfully, we should be allowed to stay on our own path, which is around 5% deficit about next year, which, as the Vice President has indicated, we are seeking to put even in law. And we get the indication that we will get a major allowance to keep on our own path and not exactly within the rigidities of the fund and the program.
Away from that, competition in the domestic aviation industry is expected to deepen further following the licensing of Black Star's captain's Baby Jet Airlines. The airline is set to begin operations in the months ahead after the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority granted the air carrier license. President Akufo-Addo disclosed this at the official opening of the 3-day Maiden African Airshow ongoing at the Kotoka International Airport. According to him, this is part of initiatives to grow the aviation industry to the benefit of the economy. Over 100 exhibitors from around the world, including aircraft manufacturers, airlines, catering companies, and other service providers in the aviation industry, and over 200 delegates are attending the event. Moving on, some players in the insurance sector are consolidating to come up with insurance packages aimed at reducing risks caused by cybercrime. This was made known at a seminar on cybercrime and DO insurance, which has seen Alliance and Media's insurance brokers introduce a special insurance package on cybercrime. Eric Adomensa is the CEO of Media's insurance brokers.
Basically, the problem that we've had is that the insurance companies have not actually come up with any policies on cybersecurity. The only one that has actually a policy is Alliance, and that is why we have partnered with Alliance to make sure that we can bring the message to the financial sector so that people can understand that there is a solution to the problem that we're facing today about cybersecurity.
Speaking about cybersecurity as well, what has been the response by various insurance companies to neutralize the effects of this very threat?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that most of the companies have really worked on finding a solution, even though the solution is there. So we're thinking that with this particular seminar, the awareness will be created so that all the other insurance companies will also come up with a policy along the same lines to be able to protect the Ghanaian consumer and the banking industry. It's because of education. I don't think as an industry we have done enough to let people know the benefits of insurance. I have had instances where I've talked to people about insuring their houses, and all they say is, oh, I think it's too expensive. But then when you go into it, the nitty-gritty, you find out that for a building of, say, 200,000 cedis worth, in a year you're going to pay less than 2,000 cedis in premium. But for 2,000, if you lose 200,000, you're going to be compensated. People don't understand, and we haven't gone to the grassroots to educate them. I think education is a problem.
Meanwhile, MD of Alliance Ghana, Martin Emisa Amish, shares with Joy Business some steps being taken to address issues of cybercrime in the insurance sector.
Cyber threats to corporate economic security are increasing in frequency, complexity, and also the magnitude. Their attempts to mislead or compromise automated systems will certainly cripple, disrupt, and damage critical infrastructure as well as corporate security networks. Also, the range of cyber threat actors and their methods of attack, as well as the victims they target, are expanding in an alarming proportion. Companies and institutions are becoming increasingly aware of the vulnerabilities they face as they strive to leverage on technology to innovate and drive competition in their favor. It has been said that amongst all business and corporate disruptions we have witnessed in recent past.
This is the Marketplace Live on your favorite channel, Joy News. Let's now cross over to the Ashanti region, and the increase in corporate tax from 8% to 25% has begun having some impact on players in the financial sector. Profit after tax for Atwema Kwangoma Rural Bank, for instance, dropped from over 9 million Ghana cedis to about 6 million Ghana cedis over the 2016 financial year. However, shareholders of the bank have something to smile about as they enjoy 11.7% increase in dividends for last year despite the drop. From 8.5 pesos per share in 2015, the bank has approved 9.5 pesos per share for the 2016 year. Prince Appiah has filed this report from Kumasi.
The increased corporate tax from 8% to 25% has a great deal of effect on the financial sector. The Atwema Kwangoma Rural Bank, for instance, had its profit before tax of over 9 million Ghana cedis reduced to 6 million Ghana cedis over the 2016 financial year. Board Chairman Patrick Owusu says the tax must be reduced.
We are not saying that we don't want to pay taxes. We are good corporate citizens. We know the essence of tax. That is what we used to build a nation. What we are appealing to government to do for us is that the quantum of increase is too astronomical, from 8% to 25%. So we are asking government, appealing to government to reduce it for us. Because, we use a chunk of our profits to do corporate social responsibility in our catchment areas.
He spoke to Love Business at the 34th Annual General Meeting of Shareholders in Kumasi to present the 2016 financial year statement. Non-performing loans currently stand at 14.2%, above the accepted baseline of 5%. Chairman of the Association of Rural Banks, Nana Dr. Akowa Buama, warns community banks risk collapse if the trend is not reversed.
Non-performing loans is a thorny problem. You need to give loans because we are helping people to develop their businesses. However, if people get loans and they don't pay back, you are making it difficult for other people to benefit from loans. Again, it's the responsibility of our loan or credit officers to set up, design ways of getting loans back, and then make sure that when they do their appraisals, they do them properly, so that you don't just give loans because somebody wants loans and you want interest after the loan.
The bank's investment portfolio grew from about 63 million Ghana cedis to 79 million Ghana cedis, with deposits appreciated by 20%. CEO Safo Kantanka reviewed the bank's plans to employ technology to stay in competition in the market.
Has to remain competitive. I think that all we need to do is to come out with new innovations. I was telling the other group that innovation is very important. But what we can do is we need to collaborate among ourselves, the rural banks. We need to collaborate. Because when we collaborate and then we do innovations, we'll be able to ensure sustainable growth. Yes, and then we need to ensure that we keep our people abreast with what is going on in the industry. And we need to give them training, good training. You see, when people understand the job that they do, they like it and they enjoy doing it. But this can only be done when they go through training.
Prince Apia reporting.
Now back in Accra, isn't it ridiculous sometimes the amount of time we spend looking for people's locations? Well, that's because we lack a proper addressing system as a country. It is a challenge. There's this challenge that got Ghanaian entrepreneur Sesinam Dagadu to develop an app called Snookode. Simple, yet effective in helping you find your way around town. The Joy Business Van meets up with Sesinam to learn the story about the app, which is used globally.
Sesinam Dagadu loves to solve problems, and he got one to solve upon returning to Ghana from schooling in the UK, where he studied engineering. He'd been raised in Ghana till age 10 when he had to travel out of the country. Returning to settle after so many years, he'd be confronted with one of the challenges the country is trying to tackle: the lack of a proper addressing system. Sesinam took up a banking job that required he finds clients. Then his frustrations began.
I'd never worked in Ghana, and for the first time I was having to work or having to go around and see people, and I realized that I was constantly lost. And I at the time said, hey, this is not something that should be able to continue. I thought, let's just build that we could build a solution to solve the problem, and that's where Snookode came from.
It took Sesinam several years afterwards to develop the app. Snookode uses a computer algorithm to generate a unique code for any location, which then serves as an address. The code replaces the area, the street name, and the house number.
We'll get the full story on the Joy Business Van tonight on Business Live on your Joy News channel. Moving on, the Ministry of Trade says government will give priority to Waterstar Company Limited in the disbursement of the $25 million stimulus package set aside for 80 companies this year. The distressed company faces an imminent shutdown if government does not inject fresh capital. The company owes 4 million cedis in electricity bills, owes workers' salary arrears, and is currently using obsolete equipment. Here's the feature on it.
Waterstar, originally Japan Textile, was set up in the 1950s to manufacture grey baft. Over 60 years after its first production, the company still uses equipment that are over 70 years old. Based on this, there are constant shutdowns to either repair equipment or totally abandon. A visit to the company leaves much to be desired. A warehouse which houses cotton used for manufacturing was almost empty. The cotton here is not for Waterstar. An arrangement with GTP is the only reason why Waterstar is still running. An off-taker agreement affords Waterstar some cotton bought and delivered by GTP before the company can work. In no time, GTP trucks begin to fill the warehouse with imported cotton from Burkina Faso.
What we have done as a company is to help pre-finance Waterstar to be able to buy the cotton from the cotton producers in the north using some arrangement we have with them. So they get the cotton from the farmers in the north. They transform these cottons into grey baft, which they supply us. We are the sole buyers from Waterstar. Last year, 2-3 years ago, Waterstar had challenges of even paying their staff, paying electricity bill. But thankfully, the past government managed to get some funding to help Waterstar to be able to pay off or to pay their workers the outstanding bonuses. So they are working now. Now, if this incoming government can still help Waterstar, because Waterstar is 100% owned by the state. It's owned by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And that is why we are appealing to them. If they can get Waterstar running more efficiently, I'm telling you, we are prepared to buy everything that they make.
The Ministry of Trade has promised a stimulus package for Waterstar in the next 3 months, and one of the key areas in the package will be the tackling of its raw materials.
Company, yes, did enjoy a facility from the previous government. Regrettably, due to the unfortunate circumstances of the company, they've not been able to pay up the facility that was granted to them. But be that as it may, since this is a strategic national asset, and since it is located in a rural community, and we believe as a government that is absolutely critical to preserve the workforce in that particular community, government has already taken a strategic decision that we would avail the company of the opportunity of benefiting from the stimulus package that is being offered by government.
But the issues are deeper than that. A cotton development board set up to look at the cotton industry is failing. When the company is able to buy their own cotton, they will be faced with still importation.
Well, I stand in between two piles of cotton. Well, the one right behind me is coming from Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso. This one here is from Ghana. 96% of the cotton that is used in this company is coming from these two neighboring countries. Only 4% is produced here. It means that the problems that Waterstar has does not just end at electricity and payment of workers, but if 96% of the raw materials they use are coming from neighboring countries, it means they do not have control, and anything could actually make this company continue to sink. And so the cotton sector will have to be looked at seriously if we're a serious country.
So far, the ailing Waterstar is hardly able to export grey baft to Ivory Coast and Cameroon, which it used to do, losing those markets. Waterstar is hardly able to meet even the local demand from GTP. They currently do less than 1/4 of the demand. The capital injection will be key at the equipment section. At the blow room, for example, where the cotton is fluffed and separated from all impurities, only one line out of the 3 works, thus less than 40% of the company's capacity. The equipment here cannot be fixed because there are no spare parts available. The newest equipment at the company was installed way back in 1997. Spinning manager Jerome Kweku-Dunyo says once they are giving money for retooling, they can pay for the rest of their debts, including what is owed ECG.
As I speak with you now, we are working with outmoded machines that were made in 1955. Of course, there have been some changes in machinery. When Vlisco was here, somewhere 1998 to 2001, during that period there were little changes, but there's far more to it than that. In our weaving shed, for example, we have looms, 1955 looms running, which run at 164 RPM. When we have newer looms that run at 1,200, 1,700, 1,800 and 2,000 RPM. Even there are looms being developed that are running between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM. And so you realize that with our 164 RPM, we are doing nothing here. And so we need resources to retool and replace some of this machinery.
The company's debt stock currently stands at 13 million Ghana cedis, which includes salary arrears. It will need about 20 million cedis to be able to stand on its feet, and the Ministry of Trade says the money is available. However, a strategic investor is needed to continue the operations of the company to make them profitable. While spare parts are not available to refix broken down equipment, workers will have to make do with what is available by painstakingly separating yarns, a process that takes days. Looms working now to spin yarn.
All right, so back in the studio, the producer price inflation rate has increased by 1.8%. That is from 6.6% in August to 7.6% in September. According to the Statistical Service, the major drivers for this increase were mining and quarrying subsectors and the manufacturing subsector, which also recorded 2.9% and 1.1% respectively. Acting Government Statistician Ban Wadie explains what this means to the economy.
The year-on-year inflation from the producer's perspective for all industry was 7.6% in September 2017. This rate is 1.0 percentage points higher than the rate recorded in August 2017. The monthly change rate for September 2017 was 1.8%. It is the result of increases in the inflation rate in the mining and quarrying subsector and the manufacturing subsector. So generally these are the areas where the increase has emanated from. Then for the manufacturing subsector, the increase of 7.5% in August to 8.5% in September was mainly the result of the following. One, the producer inflation rate for the petroleum subsector increased from 23.2% in August to 29.7% in September. And this was the result of increases in petroleum prices in August 2017. And because the sector accounts for more than 20% of the manufacturing weight, this actually impacted on the inflation rate that we observed, the increase in the inflation rate that we observed first for the manufacturing and then for the overall industry inflation rate.
And that's all we have for you by way of business news on Marketplace this afternoon. Many thanks for joining me. My name is Emmanuel Boachi Iwiafi. Let's meet again tomorrow, same time, for more interesting developments in the world of business. Have a good afternoon.